Hello, 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 and welcome to the 7th lesson during this little coronication, I'd like to call it. I'm thinking on it positively, optimistic of some sorts. And in this video, as I said in the previous video, the 6th video, if you haven't watched that, watch the 6th video, it's called Tens and Ones. So if you haven't, go watch that video before looking at this one, because this one's a good transition to step above that one. And I discussed some certain strategies or certain methods that you would use that I wouldn't actually go into depth here, because I already did it in the video. Like, I already went into depth in the previous video. So watch that, get the knowledge, understand the depth, understand the strategies, even though you may be in grades 3, 4, or 2nd, and watching the Tens and One video isn't that challenging for you, or it's above your level. It's below your level, sorry. But however, I do discuss some certain things that I will be discussing here, and I will not be discussing those certain things to a great extent and in depth, because I already have done that. So I might be doing this a couple more times, where I just make a video, go into a couple strategies in depth, and then I'm going to make a second video where I just base off of my previous video. So of course it's going to be a little bit shorter because I'm not going super in depth. So watch that video. I'm going to erase it so we could jump right into this video. I think you could hear a little bit. I got a little stuffy nose, just the allergies. But yeah. So let's get started. So we are discussing place values. In the previous video, we discussed the tens and ones, the 2-digit, and this time we're doing the hundreds, which is 3 digits, 3, and the thousands, which involves 4 digits. So, just like the other video, I'm going to make a new slide. This is just the title slide. For example, if we were doing the hundreds, actually, we could write down this number, and if we were doing thousands, we would write down this number. And you'll see why we say thousands, hundreds later on, but we're just gonna go to the place value chart that I'm gonna place right here. So you can see, as I went on in the previous video, the blocks: thousands, hundreds, tens, and 1 block. Now there's a common trend with the blocks. 10 of the ones blocks, 10 of them make 1 of this block. So how many do you think make this block? Exactly 10. And if you counted this, which is 10 times, what would you have? 100. And how many blocks of this are in this big cube? Exactly 10. You see, you're increasing by increments of 10 to get, and if I counted this thing, if I counted this 100 10 times, or I counted this entire cube, I would have 1,000 little blocks. So that's just the understanding of the blocks. I'm not going to go into it too crazy, because I did a lot of that in the video, and I want to spare you guys of that tediousness. For those of you who have watched my other video, and if you haven't, please take a look at it, unless you feel comfortable just going off of what you know. So, when I put a number, let's go 54, just for practice of our video. This is a 5, sorry about that. 54. Where would I place the 5 and the 4, if you remember from my previous video? The 5 goes in the tens, 4 goes in the ones. Why? Because there are 5 tens and 4 ones, right? The ones are all the way to the right, and the tens was to the left of that. And if we were to write it, the plus, since 4 has no numbers next to it, to the right of it, there's no 0 next to it. But 5 has one number next to it, so it has 2 zeros. So remember that. Just doing a little recap on what we gobbled up last video. Okay, but now we're going to learn about, so let's bring the 54 app back again actually. 2 new places in front of it. Which one do you think is the hundreds? Which one do you think is the thousands? Number 1 or number 2? Say it. Number 1 could be the hundreds, number 2 could be the thousands, number 1 could be the thousands, or number 2 could be the hundreds. Which one do you think it is? Exactly. Number 2 is the hundreds, number 1 is the thousands. Well, because look at the blocks. This one's a smaller block than that one. And since you increase when you go to the left, like 10, the 5, the 10s are greater than the 1s, this must be greater than the 5, but this must be greater than the number 2. Since 1 is greater than 2, as we said with greater than, in my previous videos, take a look at that, thousands are greater than hundreds. Okay. So let's focus on hundreds though, and then we'll jump into thousands actually. So if I have a number, boom. How many hundreds, how many tens, how many ones? Seven hundreds, 5 tens, 4 ones. As you can see. But there's nothing in the thousands. Why didn't we have anything here? Exactly. Because we only had 3 numbers. And the thousands, we said before, was the 4 digits. It's the 4th number. The 1's the first number, 10 second, 3rd for the hundreds. And since we only have 3 numbers, we only look at these 3 things. And the maximum place value is the hundreds because it's the 3rd number and we only have 3 numbers. But how would you write it if I was like this? Now, I talked about this strategy and I showed it to you just now. Think about it. I'll give you 5 seconds, pause the video, think about it. How would we write this? Perfect. Do 750. Why? Because as we said, the 4 has no numbers next to it. So it's only 1. The 5, 1 number next to it, 1 0. 7 has 2 numbers, so it gets 2 zeros. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to throw 2 examples, 2 to 3 examples at you, a couple of different scenarios, how you're going to approach it, and you're going to figure out how to do it. And I've attached worksheets and games for you, which use those for practice. They have the answers provided with them. Very good tools for you to finalize and master your skills in this topic, the place values. But yes, let me throw these scenarios at you. I'm going to throw different scenario situations of just the same concept, but doing it in different ways, which you're going to see. And then you're going to master, hone down your skills, solve the problems, do the worksheets, do the games, and you will be completely fine. If you have any questions, I would be more than glad to answer any of your requests. So let's get going. Let's say we have a number here. Now remember, this is how many digits are there? 4, right? So what number are we working with? Or what place is the greatest? Or do we go up to? Exactly, the thousands. So, now, if I tell you what number represents the thousands, what number represents the hundreds, what number represents the tens, and what number represents the ones. Pause the video. I'm going to pause myself for 5 seconds. Try to solve it. Okay. 4, 5, 7, and 6. Now the reasoning to this is, as we've said before, it goes ones, tens, hundreds, then thousands. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, right? So the 6 has to represent the ones. So how many ones, how many 1 blocks are there? 6. 10 blocks, there's 7. Same thing with the hundreds, same thing with the thousands. Pretty straightforward. And if I gave you the reverse, if I said 8 thousands, 6 hundreds, 0 tens, and 2 ones, what number would that be? Exactly. 8602. Because we know the 1 has to be the first number, tens is the second number, hundreds is the third number, and thousands is the fourth number. Perfect. So as we've said before, these are place values. This number, the 8, has a place, and that place is called the thousands. And how do I know that? Because it's 4 numbers down. The 0, on the other hand, is the tens place. It has the tens value. This represents, or it's saying that there are 0 tens. The 8 says there are 8 thousands because it's holding the thousands place. 0 holds the 10 place. How I know this? Again, 2 numbers down. So you just need to know that order, that it goes ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. For now, we'll add more. We'll do a little bit more, expand on it, but for now you got to know that trend. And just memorize it, get to know it. If you'll do a lot of practice questions, it'll be synced into your memory and you will never forget it. So let's do, I'm gonna make a new slide. If I give you this number, if I told you to write it, what would you write it as? Pause it. Think about the numbers next to it and zeros and the amount of zeros, the amount of numbers to the right of the number, and then write it. Pause for 5 seconds. Okay. So you saw 5, 3 zeros, 4 has 2 zeros, 6 has 1 zero, and 0 is just by itself. Why? Well, because we said 0. How many, are there any numbers next to 0 or to the right of 0? We always look this way when using this method. So are any numbers to the right? No. 6, how many numbers? There's 1 digit, 1 number. So that's 1 0. The 4 has the 6 and the 0. 2 numbers 2 zeros. 5, 1, 2, 3. 3 numbers, 3 zeros. Now I'm going to do the reverse. If I said this, what would that be? Now just work from reverse. Go backwards when you do this. These numbers, the 9, 7, 4, and 3, they hold places. How you determine that place is by looking at the zeros and determining how many numbers to the left and right of it. That's how you would determine their place. Okay, so I'm just going to do this with you. This will be the last problem of the day. So there's 4 spots. I'm going to look at 40 for instance. 40, or 40, has one number, 1 0. So 4 must have one number to the right of it. So what spot would have one number to the right of it? The 10 spot. So the 4 occupies the 10 spot. And all the 10's numbers have 1 0 next to them. The 9,000 has 3. So where would we place that? Exactly. At the end. Because 9 holds the 1,000 spot because it has 3 zeros. All thousands have 3 zeros. And this is the placeholder for the thousands in the number. Because 3 zeros, 3 numbers. 700. Be here because it's the hundreds place. And then 3, because there's no numbers next to it, it's the last number. Because there are no zeros, meaning that there are no numbers. So that number would be, I'm going to write it again. 9743. So just utilize the worksheets, watch my video a couple times, watch the 10s and 1s video just for you to understand. All you have to do is basically just understand the place value of where each number lands. Like just know that 9 is in the thousands place, 4 is in the tens place, for example. Just know where the number would be. So if I had a long number like this, and I said, where's the hundreds place? You would know that the hundred's always the 3rd number. Thousand's always the 4th. But we don't focus on the rest of the numbers. We just want to know this. So just know that. Know about the method or strategy that I taught you about looking at the 0, looking at the right. And then determining that where to place it because of the zeros and the amount of zeros. If it has 2 zeros next to it, there must be 2 numbers next to it as well. And you'll be all set to go. Do the games, do the practice worksheets, hone down your skills, and you'll be mastering this in no time. And if you feel like you're struggling, you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll be more than gladly to answer any of your questions and concerns. But as of now, stay safe, stay at home, social distance, and I'll see you soon with the next video. Alright, bye-bye.